Beto O'Rourke is painting himself as the common man, but after further analysis, he's just another politician looking for lobby money, special interest payouts, and crony politics. Plus, is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez actually losing ground among millennials? We'll look at some fascinating poll results, plus take a look at Trump's latest numbers. All that plus Movie Monday. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
God bless the United States of America.
All right, folks, we've got a lot to cover today, but first I want to say a big thank you. I can't believe the results of Friday's show. It's just blown up on YouTube, and that's all because of you. That's all because of you guys subscribing, sharing it with your friends, liking, commenting, and I just want to say thanks. I want this show to grow, but I never thought it would grow in this short a period of time, and I just wanted to say thank you. And, you know, if that causes us to lose a segment at the end, so be it, because it's all because of you guys that the show is growing and that we're going to keep going and keep making it better. So thank you very much. Let's dive into the show with Beto. Okay, so he announced for president last week. We covered it on Friday's show with just a bizarre announcement, you know, 3.5-minute video. His wife just staring up at him, looking out into space, and he said some really weird stuff. You know, he's talking about immigration being the best problem America can have and addressing issues like slavery and reparations and things like that. It was just very strange. But the main point is how he's trying to portray himself. Not just Beto himself, but the media and the left in general, trying to paint him as the common man, the guy who's going to take down President Trump because he's in touch with everyday America. And that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, Steve Hilton over at Fox News did a great report the other night, just really looking at the real Beto, you know, how he financed his campaigns, the issues he pushed for, who he interacted with. And, you know, let's just dive into it. And here's the first segment from Steve Hilton over at Fox News.
After his father-in-law helped launch Beto's political career on El Paso City Council, Beto repaid the favor by campaigning aggressively for a new property development in the city. It would involve seizing land from low-income Mexican Americans so his billionaire father-in-law could build a superstore.
Okay, and then in addition to that, there's this little gem.
Beto's political campaigns for the House and Senate have paid his own company over $125,000 since 2011.
All right, so he marries into billions. As soon as he's elected, he starts to try and do deals to funnel money more back into the family to make them even more money. Does that sound like a new brand of politics for you? I mean, it sounds like the same old crony politician stuff that we have railed against for decades, for generations. But Steve goes on. Here's more.
In his Senate campaign, he signed a no fossil fuel money pledge, promising to reject campaign donations over $200 from fossil fuel companies and executives. But unbelievably, in the 2018 election cycle, Beto had the second highest total of donations from the oil and gas industry in all of Congress, including dozens directly from oil and gas executives.
All right, so check that out. That's a whole lot of money going to Beto from companies that he has blasted. He's taken so much from oil and natural gas, fossil fuel companies, and yet he's over and over again saying how that's so bad for the environment. Well, it's really not bad for him when it's lining his pockets for campaigns. He'll take it and not even question it. But now let's take a look at some of his actions on the House Defense Committee. He was a member there before he ran for Senate. And it's just interesting where some of his money for his last campaign came from. Take a look at Hilton's report.
Beto served on the Armed Services Committee, and despite his bold denunciation of special interest corruption, it turns out he's up to his neck in it, with over $100,000 in donations from the defense industry between 2016 and 2018. 23,000 of that came from Lockheed Martin, one of the government's biggest defense contractors.
So yes, that's the House Armed Services Committee, where Beto has taken money from Lockheed Martin, from Raytheon, and in addition to that, Hilton also reported that he took money from lobbyists, personal contributions from lobbyists representing defense contractors that, you know, would appear before the House Armed Services Committee. And so it's really interesting how the public picture is so much different than the private picture. But does it make a difference? You know, are people buying it? I don't know, but I'll tell you this much. There's been a host of Democrats that have announced for president so far, and the two biggest ones, the ones who have raised the most money in the first 24 hours since announcing for president, are Bernie Sanders at $5.9 million and Beto, who just topped $6 million in his first 24 hours since announcing. So people are gravitating to him, despite the fact that everything he says is basically false. He says he, is against fossil fuels, is for the Green New Deal, yet, accepts money from lobbyists representing oil and natural gas, and on and on and on. He's just another politician, and hopefully Americans can see through this charade that he's trying to perpetrate on the American voters. And another person who's trying to perpetrate a charade and is not being as successful is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I mean, she is the darling of the media, darling of the left, yet I think some of them are really getting nervous because every time she opens her mouth, she says something that's either factually wrong, ridiculous, or just crazy, or a combination of all of the above. So, I mean, this is a person who the Washington Post, who is not a conservative paper, it's a left-leaning paper, has fact-checked her a number of times, given her 3 Pinocchio Awards on their fact-checking for things that she's gotten blatantly wrong or blatantly misleading. And now Gallup, who is, a center-left-leaning poll, has just come out with poll results over this weekend. They just announced their results that focused on Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And I want to get into some of these numbers because they're fascinating, especially in light of a conversation that I had just the other night with a friend of mine here. His friend has a son, and he was left-leaning. He was hanging out with his friends, and so you got this nice group of left-leaning friends who think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is just the best. And so this friend says, that AOC is really doing great among millennials. Well, is that true? Or is that a comment coming from just this small sampling of left-leaning kids that support AOC? Well, this is what Gallup, dug into in these poll results, and we've just got to get into it because it's some great stuff. Because basically what it shows is that in almost every single demographic category, AOC, since September, has lost ground. And let's just get into some of the results. We'll put this first chart up and we'll dive into it. Okay, this compares poll results from early September to late last month and the change. So her favorable rating has gone up 7. Her unfavorable rating has gone up 15 points. Okay, so that's a net change of, she's -8 from favorable to unfavorable, and it was only -2 back in September. So she still had more unfavorable in September. Now it's even grown by 6 more points, a net -8 favorable to unfavorable. Many more people have an opinion of her now. Only 50%. 50% never heard of her before, and that's down to 29. So as she speaks and more people get to know what she's saying, more people dislike her. But now let's get to some of the demographic breakdown, because this really shows that almost across the board, people are not buying this talk that has no basis in fact or reality. So let me put this chart up here, and this breaks down by several demographic groups. And you can tell that in almost every category, she has lost ground. The only pluses, the only place where she's gained ground from September to February are among Democrats, which is +8, and non-whites, which is +9. If you break it down everywhere else, she loses ground. Republicans, of course, -21. All adults, -8. Independents, -7. And here we go. Okay, again, with men, she's down 11 points since September. Among women, okay, she still has a net positive, but from September to now, she has dropped 3 points among women, all right? And now, the millennials who just love her, guess what? 18 to 34-year-olds, their opinion of her has dropped 7 points since September, down 7 points. She only has a net 5-point favorability rating among millennials. Her core group has dropped 7 points since then. So that just shows that the more she talks, the more people see that she doesn't know what she's talking about, it really does make a difference. So how does that compare with President Trump? How's he doing? His poll numbers, you know, have kind of fluctuated between the 40s and 50s, a lot of times low 40s. And to me, that's just amazing considering the ongoing assault from the left, from the media, from Hollywood, you know, from everybody that you know, just hates him, and it's nonstop. And so, but the Washington Times put out a report that shows that since his State of the Union address, you know, following the government shutdown, he received a bump and he's holding on to that. And his numbers are received that bump and they haven't dropped yet. So people are kind of noticing that, you know, the economy is doing well, that he wants to build this border wall despite what, you know, Democrats and Republicans are saying. So let's take a look at a report from the Washington Times. Here's what they have to say. President Trump's boost in polls following his State of the Union address has proved to be surprisingly durable, even as he loses battles in Congress and faces around-the-clock scorn from potential 2020 rivals. Mr. Trump emerged from the speech in early February with a cleaner message and approval ratings that average in the mid-40s. He then avoided another government shutdown while battling Congress over his border wall plans and has managed to maintain his numbers. Okay, so where does he stand? All right, the Washington Times goes on. Here's what they say. His approval averaged 44% Thursday, about 2 percentage points better than right before his February 5th address on Capitol Hill, said Ron Faucheux, a nonpartisan political analyst and publisher of Lunchtime Politics. All right, so that's where he's kind of standing right now. And, you know, it's going to be tough going into 2020 with, you know, numbers that border around the 40s. It's never been a good sign. But we have to, again, take into account the ongoing assault. It's nonstop against him. And if he can keep this up, if he can build some momentum and show people that it's about the economy, it's about border security, it's about jobs, then he can do it. But it's going to be very, very tough. All right, so to wrap up, it's Movie Monday. And rather than a movie, I just want to go into a trailer. The next movie, Avengers Endgame, is going to come out in just a couple months. We've been watching it. I'll put this on the screen. This is our lineup of all the Avengers movies. And this trailer was absolutely awesome. Here's just a little clip. And I love it because it goes into, this is, you know, 11 years in the making. Iron Man came out in 2008, and it shows some flashbacks to that. I just want to show you a little bit.
God, seems like 1,000 years ago. I fought my way out of that cave.
And of course, there's Steve Rogers and Hawkeye.
The world has changed. None of us can go back.
All right, and this movie, I know this sounds sacrilegious, but I think I'm actually looking forward to this more than I looked forward to Return of the Jedi back when I was a freshman in high school. It's got epic battles, and just take a look at this hero walk from this trailer. Oh my gosh, there's so much to get into. I'm going to put a link to the trailer, and I wish we could I may do a special show just on this trailer because, folks, you've got to see it. We've seen Captain America, First Avenger, Captain Marvel, 2 Iron Mans, and Hulk now to get ready. Next is Thor on our list. But, folks, please leave your comments. Please subscribe. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-Minute News Hour.